You see my screen, right? With the yeah, I've done that. Done this a few times now. Awesome. So people are rolling in. We'll get started in a minute. We have a big event in this part. No one really cares about anyway. So I'll try to flick through it in a minute. Hi, Jean. Hi, Marjorie. Thanks for coming back on. Always great to have you here. Hey, Rick. Hey, Rick. Welcome. Hey, Joe. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me. How you doing?
Yeah, good. Everything's good. It's good to have you here. We have a good event tonight, but Barry Seth is not with us, so may not be as exciting. Hey, Sandeep, welcome.
Thank you.
It's good to have you here. Nice. Edward. Ed Keys, the man. How are you? Hey, Ed. I don't know if you hear me. Love those headphones. All right, so let's get into it. We have a great event tonight, and we're excited to have you all here. So thank you for joining. We worked hard on putting it together, so we're really excited that you joined. A quick update on our group. Today marks our 22nd event, and we've hosted over 70 industry-wide speakers since the inception of our group, and today we've developed our group to over 1,300 members. So we're really excited about the community that we've grown, and we couldn't have done it without all your support. So thank you for being here and being part of the community. We love having you. Now, I usually take this time to introduce my wonderful co-organizer, Barry Seff. However, sadly, Barry isn't with us tonight. In fact, he's in Munich attending the LOPEC conference, but he's here with us in spirit. And nevertheless, I want to take the time to thank Barry's spirit. Thank you, Barry, for all your help. Oh, wait. I think he just sent us a voicemail. Let's take a listen.
Guten Tag from Deutschland. This is Barry here in Germany attending the LOPEC Print Electronics Conference. If you happen to be in the area or know any colleagues or friends over there, please have them connect with me. And you can send my email in the chat, and I'd love to connect. Have a great meetup, and I look forward to contributing more next time. Thanks so much, Andy.
Thank you, Barry. And if you know anyone at the LOPEC conference in Munich, definitely reach out to Barry. We'll send his email in the chat following the intro. We have a few ways to connect with our community. Slack, we have a Slack channel. We have a weekly newsletter called the Augmented Report, and also use the chat throughout the presentation to connect with other like-minded folks and meet someone you may have never had the opportunity to meet. So those are some ways we are helping grow the community. We have a few upcoming events that I'm excited to share about. We have with Carl Guttag and Jerry Ellsworth on Monday, April 11th, display experts discussing pressing topics, including micro LEDs and LCOS displays. And in the second half, we'll be welcoming questions for discussion. So we look forward to seeing you there on Monday, April 11th at 6:30 p.m. And then our next formal meetup is Monday, April 25th. So you can RSVP for that event on Meetup as well. And we have one announcement tonight. Neeraj Shah is the creator of an augmented reality and poetry app available in the App Store now. And here's Neeraj to tell us more about it.
Hi, everyone. This is my first time doing this or even talking to the public about my app. So I created an augmented reality poetry and art app. I've always wanted my art to be interactive, and I would use Adobe Premiere and After Effects to create some animations of my poetry. it was fun, but I wanted something more accessible and more interactive. And when AR Pokemon Go came out, that's when I had the idea to marry my art and AR. So I'll just show you quickly what that entails, because anytime I say augmented reality, poetry, and art, people are confused. So here's one poem with animations, just to get an idea. So this is my app. So I tell you how to hold it. A lot of people don't know how to hold a device for augmented reality, or that you need lighting. And I give some indicators so people know what to do. So this one goes on a little, I look left. So there's this, it's a story. It's like a music video for poetry, basically. And I coded this where there's triggers where these things won't happen unless you move to a certain angle of your phone. And yeah, so you could do this in any environment. It's interactive because you could also have other people in the shot interacting with the AR characters, come up with some creative things. That's one thing I did. Another one I did was augmented reality and art. So let me get to that one here.
Hey Neeraj, quick question on that
Yeah.
that app. So are those poems context specific? Like, do they switch based on your location that you're in, or is there some way to customize the poem?
No, those are my poems. The only thing I try to change is on some of them, the lighting. If it's the dark background, the text will change color to light white, and vice versa.
Awesome.
So this is one where it has with art. So this is one of my paintings. And sorry, go back. So then the flame is augmented reality, and so is the poetry.
Beautiful.
And then you can go to the side and you can see the flames coming out, and the words follow the camera.
Beautiful.
That's
We need to move on here to the presentations, but just quickly, what software did you use to create this?
so I use Unity 3D.
Okay, beautiful.
And then there's another two other sections. One is self-care. It's some breathing exercises and augmented reality, and another one is actually a multiplayer thing, because Unity, you could have multiplayer.
Sure.
So what you do is you text in 3D, and I'll show you that really quick. This way, you can actually, with your friends, create art and texting in 3D. 1 second.
Awesome. Yeah, send your information to the chat as well, and if there's anyone you'd like to collaborate with, they could follow up.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I'll just share this one more thing, and then that's it.
Okay.
So that's me. Type. I can scale it. I can rotate it. You can, all these buttons. You could change the colors, the rotations, and if someone else was in the same virtual room, you'd be able to see there what they're texting, and they'd have their name on top. So yeah, that's just to get it over with really quick. That's the gist of it.
Awesome. When did you release the AR Poetry app on the App Store?
In 2017 was the first version, and then it took me, years on and off to just come up with more things. Like anything in life, you never feel it's ready. But at this point, I added the self-care, I added the art, I added the multiplayer 3D words in AR. So I'm like, I think I'm ready now. And the app is continually going to be improving, more content, more poetry, more art. So I released this version back in September 2021.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining. If you or anyone has a project they'd like to share, you're always welcome to join and showcase. So I appreciate you joining. I love the work. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I'll just put the links
Anytime.
to the app stores in the chat.
Yeah, if you ever need some more time to share, just let me know. You're always
Okay.
welcome.
All right,
Awesome.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. And now here's the latest news brief. Magic Leap unveiled Magic Leap 2, 70-degree field of view. It has 9 cameras and sensors, IR sensors on the controller for more precise control. It does require offload to a secondary computer, but Magic Leap estimates it can manufacture more than 100,000 headsets in its Florida-based factory, and the headset will cost about $2,300. So that's the ML2 device. Niantic acquired Eighth Wall. Eighth Wall allows developers to create web AR experiences using JavaScript and WebGL. So Niantic acquired them in their largest acquisition to date. Eighth Wall tools are expected to be integrated into the Lightship ARDK, according to Niantic's announcement post. And then last week, information reported that Google struck a deal to buy Raxium developers of micro LEDs, which could be implemented into future Google AR headsets. Raxium has not developed a product yet, but they have stated that they have the ability to manufacture micro LEDs on the same standard cheap silicone used to create most microchips. This would substantially drive down cost in future mass productions. Now, without further ado, I am very excited to move on to our presentation. Those who are pushing the industry forward and making what was once impossible a reality, and it's incredible to have such amazing speakers with us tonight. After each presentation, there will be a 5-minute Q&A, so post your questions in the chat, and you'll have the ability to ask and I'll relay the questions to the presenters afterwards. And if you'd like to, this is something new, but if you'd like to speak on the mic and ask a question, raise your hand on the participants panel, and we could try that out as well. Now, first, it's an honor to have Mark Pesce here with us tonight. He co-invented the technology for 3D on the web, laying the foundations for the metaverse. He has written not 7, but 8 books, including Augmented Reality, Unboxing, Tech's Next Big Thing, which I read, and it was really an insightful read. So thank you, Mark. He was, for 7 years, a judge on the ABC's The New Inventors, founded postgraduate program at USC, holds an honorary appointment at Sydney University, is a multiple award-winning columnist for The Register, pens another column for Cosmos Weekly, and is a professional futurist and public speaker. He hosts both the award-winning Next Billion Seconds and This Week in Startups Australia podcast. Thank you, Mark, for joining us.
Thank you very much, Andy. And I want to greet you all from the boundless plains of the metaverse, which you can see behind me because they are boundless and empty. Because as William Gibson said a long time ago, there is no there there. And I can tell you that the metaverse has looked like this for pretty much 30 years. And I know this for a fact because back in 1994, Tony Parisi and I developed the first pass of the metaverse. What you're seeing there is the very first item in the metaverse, the archetypal cyber banana, which was the very first piece of test gear. And recently, I found the original code for this, put it on a Windows machine, and amazingly, God bless Microsoft, it actually still runs. You can go to my website at markpesce.com and download it and run it for yourself and find out what the metaverse looked like when it was taking its very first steps into being. Now, we have far better technology. Again, it's 28 years later. We had that was the standard for Web 1.0. But of course, that's now been superseded by WebGL, which is why I also get really excited when there's an announcement about Eighth Wall being bought up by the folks, the folks who do, Andy?
Niantic?
Niantic, thank you. That's it. The folks who do Pokemon Go, because they actually do a lovely thing with open standards, because they're WebGL based, because they're JavaScript based, and they make that possible for anyone. And that was always our intention. All VRML has always been scriptable by anyone. You didn't need any fancy machines. It always ran on a low-end PC. And the idea here was to make it as available for everyone. Now, despite the fact that we lowered the barriers of entry significantly, we haven't seen a lot of advancement in the metaverse over the last 30 years. And this parallels the idea of augmented reality. We're still sort of doing the same kinds of things in augmented reality that we were doing 6, 7, 8 years ago. Yes, some of the technology is better, some of the tools are better. It hasn't really been gelling at scale. And I spent some time thinking about why that was. And I have some suggestions here. And that is not to say that things are not going off in the metaverse, because as you know right now, metaverse land sales are going through the roof. They're basically a specialized kind of a non-fungible token. So you can buy something and it will be worth tens of thousands or perhaps even tens of millions of dollars if it happens to be in a good location in the metaverse. And when you think about the fact that all land in the metaverse is unreal, that this is unreal estate, the idea of a good location is an interesting thing to ponder. So all of that is actually going on there. It's also happening to a lesser degree in augmented reality. This is a very neat trick. It's generating a lot of heat, but it's best if you don't look at it too closely, because if you do, you start to see that a lot of what's going on now is a house built on sand, that the foundations that we need to make this truly useful at scale. And you have to remember, augmented reality by definition is going to serve billions of people because it's in the real world. The metaverse, at least by invocation, is meant to serve billions of simultaneous users because that's what the metaverse is. And so if we're talking about something that needs to do that and lacks foundation, then we've got a bit of a problem there. And it's not just that it lacks foundations in the real world, it lacks foundations within itself. I want to give you a simple example, scale. How big is something? Now, if you're scaling something in the United States, you're going to scale it in inches and feet. If you're scaling something over here in Australia, and by the way, I'm coming to you from Sydney this morning, on the other side of the world from New York almost precisely, we don't use inches and feet. We use meters and centimeters and millimeters over here. And this is not really a philosophical point about what scale is and how scale works. If you all have seen the film This Is Spinal Tap, there's a really truly famous scene in the film where the band is expecting this 18-foot high dolmen from Stonehenge to come landing down on the stage, but because someone's misspecified the scale, it's 18 inches tall. So scale matters. And having an identified scale that works across all metaverse and augmented reality worlds is a necessary thing. And right now, it's actually something we don't have at all. And when you think about that, you think about, well, we've gotten really far without any agreement here. How did that happen? We actually need to take a step back and maybe just as a first step here, establish an agreement on what scale is. And it's not a hard thing to do because I think people will come to an agreement that one standard unit would be a meter. I don't think the Americans will mind that very much. The rest of the world will be like, well, yeah. Once we can do that, then the modeling tools and our tool chains and our placement tools will all be able to adapt to a common language about scale. This is what I'm saying about foundations. These are not foundations of technology. These are foundations as human agreements. And it points to something that people don't want to acknowledge about both the metaverse and augmented reality, which is that this isn't really a talk about technology. This isn't really a technological development. Really what it is it's a set of human agreements about how we want things to work when we're going to be doing them at the scale of billions of users. But the agreements don't end there. The next coal face that we're going to come across, and this is already starting to happen in augmented reality, and it will very soon happen inside of the metaverse, which is that we now have this crowding of different platforms. There are many platforms in AR. There are many platforms that purport to be the metaverse. They can't actually be the metaverse because, as Tony Parisi perceptively wrote in his 7 rules of the metaverse, which, by the way, if you haven't read it, go and Google it right now and read it. It's fantastic. Rule number 1 is there's only one metaverse. You can't have a metaverse over there and a metaverse over here because that's not the metaverse. The metaverse is one thing. All right. If it's one thing, then how do all of these different things that purport to be the metaverse, how do they all relate to one another? Do they connect? How do they arbitrate with respect to one another? And to give you some idea of what's going on in the metaverse right now, right? You have to ask yourself, okay, so how does Decentraland map onto the sandbox? Because both of them are selling land on real estate at a rate of clips right now. And then how does that map onto CryptoVoxels? How does that map onto Somnium Space? And then there's Facebook's Horizon MetaWorlds, there's Minecraft, there's Roblox. All of those are also metaverses on themselves. How do any of these map on to one another? And of course, this also comes out to the real world, because if you have the right to put up some augmented reality thing on the side of a building, how do you attest that right? How do you prove that you have that right? How do you prevent someone from writing something over that thing? So these rules in the metaverse and in augmented reality are reflections of one another. We don't have any of these rules yet. And that's not to throw in, let's say, what happens when you get to, say, Grand Theft Auto or Battlefield 2042, which are open world metaverses, or what happens if Second Life comes roaring back into First Life again? You get my point that this is an answer that everyone needs, because unless we start to have an answer about how these puzzle pieces fit together and how we arbitrate who has rights over what, it's going to stay a mess and it's going to stay fragmented. And a fragmented augmented reality is a failed augmented reality. A fragmented metaverse is a failed metaverse. And the problem here is that almost all of these systems are asking you to buy company deeds in company script that are only redeemable at the company store. So we need to get to a place now where title, where property, where ownership is honored throughout the metaverse, what we would call Web3. But the thing is, there is no such thing as one Web3 either. There are many blockchains, and this isn't just about moving an item from one blockchain to another blockchain. This is about understanding their relative relation, which means we come back to this idea that this is actually not about technology, but it's about a whole series of human agreements. It's about how all of these things reside with respect to one another. Do they share a common origin? Do they share common portals? How do we move seamlessly between them? How do we arbitrate between different people who think they own the same piece of real estate in the real world for augmented reality? We need these standards and we need these agreements, and we need them now, because if we don't get to scale, because standards and agreements are the ways we lock value in for the long term for everyone. But right now, today, we have to admit that we are a long way away from that. Now, that's fine. It's early days, but there's getting to be a lot of money involved here. And soon there's going to be trillions of dollars on the table when Apple comes in and when Google comes in and when Facebook comes in. Each of these, oh, and by the way, I'm sorry, Microsoft, which is leading both augmented reality and the metaverse. You take a close look at their technology suites, they're far ahead of everyone else. So that's $4 trillion companies that will all be contesting around this, that will all be seeking their own advantages while we're all trying to get our work done. And standards and agreements are ways to protect ourselves. Right now, today, in 2022, basically what we're doing is we're visiting a vast empty plain that is full of promise, but needs standards and agreements to get us there. Right now, all of this is little more than a very powerful idea. But to make it real and to make it scale is going to require real work. And so I'm leaving you with the question, what does it take to get to an interoperable metaverse? What does it take to get to interoperable augmented reality? Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Great having you. Question that we have, how important is 5G in the development of the metaverse?
I mean, it's important. Will the metaverse work without 5G? Yes, right? Will it have a little bit more latency? Sure. Will we deal with that? Yes. I mean, I think the idea of having a metaverse at scale is important. 5G comes to this idea, sort of melt everyone's mind. We're going to have to come up with some equivalent of what the speed of light is in the metaverse. The same thing is, by the way, also true in augmented reality, because events in augmented reality and in the metaverse don't propagate in the same rate as they do in the real world. And you think that doesn't matter until you get to, say, a game where people are lobbing hand grenades at one another or whatever, in which case all of that stuff becomes very important. And in fact, the very first military metaverse, something called SimNet, which was from the early 90s, the first problem they had to solve was agreeing on time and when events happened. And most of the large-scale open-world games that you see today, that's actually the center of what they're doing, is keeping everyone synchronized and making sure, of course, no one's cheating on that synchronization to gain advantage.
Awesome. Justin has a question. How does data mining, tracking, and advertising factor into the metaverse? I know you
Oh, God. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So let me just go have a look at my book, because it will apply to the metaverse as well. So what we know about both augmented reality and functionally sort of useful metaversal systems is that they have to track your body a lot, right? We are not going to be satisfied with these cartoonish avatars that we're getting in Horizon Worlds. Or we're going to want something that looks like volumetric capture, because that's the way we're going to feel like we're fully embodied in these places. And volumetric capture means you're pointing many cameras at yourself all of the time, and all of that data is being gathered, plus whatever is being gathered off your headset, your pupils, your eye tracking, all of that stuff. And so it is a data mine. And I think the thing we have to think about is, when we engineer these systems, we have to engineer them so that most of that data stays on the device most of the time and is only let off that device with the user's permission and the user's understanding of how that data will then be used and fed back to them. Because what we don't want to end up with is the equivalent of Facebook's news feed, which is constantly reading your reactions and then feeding you stuff to keep you engaged by making you react more. That's what we don't want.
Awesome. Question from Ed. I know you have to hop off in a few minutes too, Mark, but he asked, it sounds like a lot of Web3 and metaverse concepts are focused on creating scarcity as a source of value. Is this actually a good idea versus trying to build it on a foundation of abundance?
So the question, there are two questions here. Is it a good idea, and is it actually possible, right? I mean, you can create a non-fungible token which will represent a limited number of something. Whether you can do that with real estate in the metaverse, which is theoretically infinite, you're going to have to be really, really careful and nuanced about this. You're going to have to say, hi, this is my island universe. It doesn't talk to any of your other universes, so you can't have anything here unless you bought this piece of property. It doesn't feel like that's going to be an extremely attractive proposition. Maybe it will be. You know, the Bored Ape Yacht Club has shown that people are willing to pay several $1,000s to get behind a velvet barrier to do this. When we're talking about both augmented reality and the metaverse at scale, which is billions of people who are, and I think the measure we have to use is, are working there. They're not just playing there or doing entertainment, but they're getting stuff done there. Then a lot of these artificial scarcity barriers that we're putting in simply don't make sense. They will be a barrier to getting work done. And so people will work around those barriers.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark. One more question, if that's okay. From HC, what is the maturity level of sensors and telemetry needed for a metaverse? And how far are we away from what's needed to make it feel natural?
So, I mean, I think at the sensor level, we're probably already there, but it's a price point issue, right? One of the most interesting things that happened in sensors was Face ID. All right. So basically, of course, Apple took the guts of the original dot version of the Kinect and shrunk it by about a factor of somewhere between 1,000 and 10,000. So between 3 and 4 units of magnitude. And that then opened a door to being able to do high quality volumetric rendering. Of course, now every high-end iPhone and every high-end iPad has LiDAR built into it, which can do exceptionally high quality capture. And I'm sure many of you have done this for your own AR projects right now. So the devices themselves are getting cheap. If you take a look at the M1 Ultra, expect that something similar to that will be in whatever Apple releases as its AR spectacles by, say, 2025, 2026. So you'll have all of the processing power that you want. You'll probably have all of the sensor power that you want. So you can see a convergent line. Displays have always been the hard point, but it looks like displays are probably, fingers crossed, a solved problem here. So if you have sensors, displays, and compute largely solved, then it becomes an integration and scaling task. And I think that's where they're spending their time and money right now.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate you joining.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
See you later. Nice walk off. Okay. Hey, Matt. Matt Tullis, welcome. We're going to have Justin Dimmel present next, then Matt Tullis, and we'll close off with Fraser Bowie. And I'm excited to have Justin with us tonight, and my presenter notes are not working. Anyway, you'll just have to look at my face as I do this introduction. Oh, sorry, Justin. I have your, okay. Justin is assistant professor of mathematics education and instructional technology at the University of Maine. Dimmel completed both an master's in mathematics and a PhD in mathematics education at the University of Michigan. Prior to pursuing his graduate degrees, Dimmel worked for 5 years as a mathematics educator and school administrator at independent, adventure-based boarding schools in Massachusetts and the Bahamas, the Island School, where he gained experience with place-based education. At the University of Maine, Dimmel leads the Immersive Mathematics in Rendered Environments Laboratory. His recent work investigates student interactions with diagrams that are inscribed in immersive spaces. Justin, thanks for being here. We look forward to learning more about your project.
Thank you so much, Andy. It's really wonderful to be here and to meet everyone. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we should be rolling here. Are we good, Andy? Do you see my?
Yeah, it looks great. Thank you.
Okay, great. So as Andy mentioned, I'm an academic. I'm at the University of Maine. In fact, my chief collaborator and doctoral student, Camden Bach, just jumped on the call. And Camden and I have been working together since 2016, 2017. We're very excited about the possibilities of these emerging technologies for how they might transform the teaching and learning of mathematics. And so part of what I like to do as an academic, I like to contextualize things. And so I want to kind of bring us back. This is a 5,000-year-old early writing tablet. This is courtesy of the British Museum. This is proto-cuneiform, and apparently this is some kind of record. It's like a beer ledger. So I mean, beer writing. These go back. These are kind of the pillars of civilization. But I like to think about writing and the history of writing because it helps to put into perspective how little has changed in 5,000 years until relatively recently, right? So if you think about this tablet, we have some kind of flat surface, we have some kind of stylus, and we are inscribing on that stylus, with that stylus onto that surface data, we're logging information. And so whether you're talking about proto-cuneiform, cuneiform, writing systems, the printing press, even until relatively recently, laptops, computers, like we're still dealing with two-dimensional screens. And so in our work, we are very excited about what we think of as spatial inscriptions. And so, a spatial inscription as something that is inscribed in space. We like to use this term as opposed to making things hardware specific, like augmented reality, virtual reality, extended reality, in part because of some of the things Mark was just talking about. Like, we are in the early days of all of this. The terminology that we use, the devices that are going to mediate our experiences with these kinds of inscriptions, all of this stuff is being actively negotiated right now. And in 5 or 10 or 500 years, it's possible we're going to be logged into the metaverse with things we can't even imagine right now. But what is not going to change is that this leap that we're making from inscriptions that are flat and two-dimensional to inscriptions that appear to fill actual space, that is sort of the big leap that we see right now. And so thinking about spatial inscriptions allows us to think about things like 3D drawing pens. Some of you might be familiar with these. You can sort of extrude things into space. Augmented reality holograms, right, where you can have this kind of blending of a spatial projection and the real world. But then also older things like bubble filaments in mathematics. Soap films have helped us understand things about like surface minimization and geometry. And then even recently, if people watch the opening ceremonies in Beijing, there was this sort of stunning display of different kinds of light projection technologies, kind of creating this blend of enhanced imagery with physical things. And so all of these things are made possible with different kinds of technologies, but a common element to each of them is this idea of inscribing information in space. And so we're excited about that because in mathematics, we have some kind of systemic representation problems. And so we can take everyone back to your days in school geometry. One of the representations problems that we deal with in mathematics is the boundedness of the display, right? So like in this case, think about something like a line. You might remember that a line is infinitely thin and it extends indefinitely in two directions. But every representation that we have of lines is confined on the pages of a book, the screen of a tablet, the screen of a phone. We've developed this markup language that involves arrows to help convey that this line extends indefinitely, but we do not interact with representations of lines that show the line as it truly is. So there's this kind of like the display is bounded. In Mark's presentation, when he had this wonderful unbounded open canvas, like that was very exciting for me because we think a lot about the unboundedness of the displays that are possible and how that might do things differently for mathematics. A second representation problem, we have this issue of collapsing the foreground and the background and erasing the interior space of three-dimensional things. And so in each of these pictures that we're looking at, you are all probably trained visually over time to understand what's foreground, what's background, what's interior, how the dotted lines, how the shading, how the sort of shown and not shown intersections all work together to convey this sense of spatial presence. But the reality is the actual space that these three-dimensional figures take up is collapsed and flattened. And things can happen in those spaces. And that's a major sort of like representational issue for students, because if you think about it, as a math teacher, something that I need to do is I need to help students understand what a three-dimensional figure looks like. But if I'm drawing it on a flat board, you sort of already have to know how to decode that representation. So it's almost like there's a circularity there. You have to sort of know what you're looking at for the representation to make sense. And then finally, we have a sort of a related issue that has to do with the problem of perspective. And so when you think about the diagrams that you see in books or in textbooks, you typically have this view, this kind of third person, omniscient or godlike view of the diagram, where it's external to the viewer, it's shown from a fixed perspective. Again, it's bounded and confined to the plane. And so we don't talk about this. We don't talk about how any diagram of any mathematical figure you see is shown to you from a fixed perspective that you, the viewer, have no control over. For example, we could show parallel lines in more of a projective view, right? Using the techniques of of perspective drawing. These two sort of representations highlight different aspects of what's happening in each case. And these are completely different drawings. Like students don't really have a way of going easily from this outside third person perspective to this more first person immersive perspective. And so there's this issue of the fixed perspective. And so we're really motivated by this question of what representations are possible with spatial inscriptions. There's new things that we can do. What are some of these new things? And so the examples I'm about to show, these are examples from some of the immersive environments that we've developed in my research lab. And so this work has focused on virtual reality, but that isn't because we're not interested in augmented reality. This is really because we're taking this perspective of spatial inscriptions, and for us, it's just been easier to work with virtual reality, but we're very interested in the possibilities of augmented reality, especially when you think about things in classrooms where you have the best of both worlds. You don't, as a teacher, you don't necessarily have to surrender your awareness of the real world while you can also still interact with these figures that are inscribed in space. So one affordance, and Mark already touched on this in his talk, is we have these things that are apparently unbounded. And so this is an image from one of our undergraduates. He's in an immersive environment. So on the, I'm not sure if it's your left or your right, but the blue background, we can sort of see the student in the real world. And then adjoining that, we see what he's looking at, and the black arrow tracks his direction of gaze. And so he's looking at a line that appears to extend indefinitely. And so what he did is he grabbed a line segment from this tool shed. That line segment spans this line, and he can sort of see that line goes off as far as he can see. And notice how he's engaged his kind of like entire posture and attention in sort of taking stock of this line. And so we see this as significant because in these instances, we are allowing students to investigate mathematical diagrams using things that are familiar to them from how they navigate the world, right? Like we have a lot of experience of making sense of things in the world, most of which is very difficult to tap into when we deal with the context of mathematics. So in this case, we can see students are looking up. They've put a line perpendicular to the floor, and they're looking up at it. They're sort of seeing it extend off into the distance, and they're kind of positioning their bodies as if they're looking up to see something spectacular, something high in the sky. So that's one affordance, this idea of being able to have unbounded inscriptions. A second affordance is that three-dimensional things can look three-dimensional. They're spatially extended. And so here's an example of another one of our environments. I know it's hard to see because we're looking at this kind of compressed version of it, but I'll explain what's happening here. This is a 10 by 10 by 10 lattice. It's a three-dimensional version of what's known as like a geoboard. Some of you might remember these. You can kind of mess around with rubber bands, and you can make different sorts of polygons at lattice points, which are points in the plane that have integer coordinates. And so we took that idea and we brought it up into space. And so you can see here, each of these sorts of lines of points, as you're heading off into the distance, this gives a sort of sense of depth, right? So these are a research participant looking in this lattice, and he's inscribing a cube. And what's interesting, if you look down here, he makes this cube, and this was sort of a completely open exploration for him. And then he wants to immediately sort of fill in these interior diagonals. He was drawn to the interior of the figure, and we asked him to talk about what he was doing and why he was doing it. He just said, I just wanted to see what the diagonals would look like. I don't really ever get to interact with the inside space of a cube. And so making this interior space of spatial figures available to students, where right now you have to kind of like decode it through these compressed and flattened two-dimensional images, that's something that we're really excited about. Here's another example. This is a first-person view that shows a series of stills of someone in one of our environments, and they are transforming a point eventually into a prism by making successive applications of this sort of stretching gesture, almost like you're pulling apart cotton ball. And so this is something we just were tracking the gestures with the Leap motion sensor on a HTC Vive headset. And then by the, sort of by the bottom of the screen, you have this nice sort of volumetric thing. You can put your hand inside, you can put your head inside. You get this sense of increasing dimension as you move your hands in space. And then finally, we have this issue of the user or the immersed participant has a complete control over perspective. And so here again, we're going to see a first-person view of parallel lines. This is a short little video. It might play a little herkily and jerkily, but what you'll see as this goes. So here's someone that is looking at this head on, and then we're going to see them, I hope, start to kind of walk around it again. There's a bit of lag there. I apologize that the video isn't optimized for sharing, but you can sort of see kind of walking around this set of parallel lines in space. And so making this other part of the diagram, this sort of space that the diagram is inscribed in, available for investigation. And then if you think back to those diagrams I showed of the two different views of the parallel lines, we can sort of see that here just by walking up and looking up. So I can kind of control whether I'm getting this external perspective or more of this first person perspective just by moving my body. I can control that. And so we see this as significant because it helps to remove the barriers between things that students might be curious about, things they want to know more about, and the way they can investigate that. If you think back to your experiences in mathematics, and I know we're obviously a very tech-savvy group here. Some of you maybe didn't struggle in math, but perhaps you know people that did. There's always this issue of mediating the things you want to do through symbol systems, through other representations, right? You have to kind of know how to transform some set of equations if you want to rotate something in space. With spatial inscriptions, you can control that sort of curiosity and where it might lead you just by making natural movements with your body. And so our research mission is to investigate the possibilities for learning and teaching with spatial inscriptions. This is really just sort of scratching the surface of some of what we were doing. I'm very excited to be able to share this with everyone here this evening, and I'd love to hear from folks if there's questions. And thank you again for the opportunity to share our work. And then here's just like some the perfunctory acknowledgements slide. I won't have this up for very long. Again, I'm an academic. We have to cite our sources of funding. So I've been supported by the National Science Foundation, the Spencer Foundation, my college at UMaine, and the Maine Space Grant Consortium.
Thank you, Justin. Great having you. Just a quick question, and there's some from the audience. Are there any opportunities to get involved in working with your project?
I mean, I think I'll put my email in the chat, and I think if anyone is interested, like we are, Camden and I are not, Camden is much more technically literate than I am, and Camden actually has provided the kind of back end and helped organize undergraduates to code things, and has done a lot of the development himself in Unity. But we are not software engineers, we're not hardware engineers. We are people who are very excited about what is possible with these emerging technologies. And so if any of you are interested in working with academics, and there's an opportunity where some of the things that we're interested in are things that you're interested in, we would love to hear from you and see if there's a way to collaborate.
Awesome. Thanks, Justin. Question from Ed. Have you done anything with visualizing objects in fourth or higher dimensions, or things like curved space-time?
Yeah, those are kind of wish list things. We have some examples that never really got out of the test phase. So I think one of our perhaps one of our most interesting examples in Camden, I guess I'd invite you to join in if you think I'm missing something. We had this hyper dodgeball experience, which we thought was really exciting, that you actually could have two players in a room, and then we could control the kind of topological qualities of the room. So we could turn it into a torus by kind of gluing the sides and the ceiling and the floor together. And this would allow students to sort of see, you could hit various geometric solids and then follow their trajectories. And as they interact with the wall, different things would happen based on what kind of topology we had imposed on the room. And so that's something really exciting about being able to think about higher dimensional surfaces that we can experience, directly. We had some ideas about, representations of 4-dimensional cubes and like folding and unfolding them. We've had challenges actually getting the visualizations to look the way we want them to look. But if that's something people are interested in or something have experience with, we'd love to hear from folks to help us on that. We're very interested in that, though.
Thank you, Justin. Patrick Catanziri, who is actually an awesome AR developer, Pat Cat is his name on the chat. He wants to know, is there anywhere to keep up with your research and further information on it? He'd love to keep up with it all.
Yeah, I'll put a link to our website, which we don't update as often as we should, but we will. We're academics. I'm probably the chief drag on keeping the website more up to date. But I'll put our website in the chat. I'll also post a couple of our recent papers, and that has information about things that we've been working on.
Please do. And just one more question. Do you have any plans on like tracking the efficacy of this like a 3D model in a student environment, how that might affect the student grades and whatnot? How would you track that?
Yeah, so I think that we're still in more of a basic research orientation in the sense that like I think of what we're doing as almost like kind of like pioneering or exploring a new frontier. And so I think we're a little ways away from knowing what sorts of representations to create, how to make them available to students, and then have hypotheses about how those might affect what students learn. However, we are kind of at the beginning of a 5-year NSF-funded project where we're going to be taking versions of these environments into schools, working with students, and trying to develop those hypotheses. So we sort of see the first step as developing a theory of learning that would account for how spatial inscriptions change the nature of what we can teach and learn, especially in K through 12 mathematics. And then once we have that theoretical footing in place, we'll start to look at, okay, like if we have this kind of experience, how might we expect it to affect students' sense of space or students' sense of dimension?
Beautiful. Thank you, Justin. Appreciate you joining us.
Thank you, everyone. Really great to be here.
Thank you. Next up, I'm excited to have Matt Tullis with us. Matt joined Ultraleap in 2020 and is currently the VP of XR. In this role, he is instrumental in driving Ultraleap's product offerings, roadmaps, partnerships in virtual, augmented reality, and spatial computing. Matt has almost 20 years of experience in the consumer electronic industry and has worked in the XR ecosystem at both Tobii Immersion and in business development roles. Prior to that, Matt spent 10 years at Dolby Laboratories in its game division. He led Dolby's gaming efforts as marketing director and held roles including product manager, and developer support engineer. Matt holds a Bachelor of Science in Computer Science from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Thank you, Matt, for joining us.
Awesome. Thanks, Andy, for that introduction. A little bit long. That's our PR people that like to get a lot of information in there. Thanks, everyone, for having me. Hopefully you can all hear me all right. I'm actually at the Game Developers Conference in San Francisco right now. So hopefully let me know if there's any issues with my audio or video. I put together a few slides. I'm going to come at it with a little bit, probably less of an academic angle than the previous presenter, but that was really good stuff. And it was awesome to see that, Justin's used the Leap Motion controller and some of their stuff, because that's one of our products. So just as background on Ultraleap, the company Ultra Haptics was founded to deliver mid-air haptics using ultrasound. And there's a different company called Leap Motion that was founded to go after hand tracking. These two companies essentially merged in 2019, where Ultra Haptics bought Leap Motion. And so now we have Ultraleap, and so that's the company I'm at now. So hopefully we'll maybe give you guys some new stuff. Seems like this company, everyone here in this audience is pretty well versed in everything in AR and VR, but I'm just going to kind of go through and talk about why we think hand tracking is going to be what the touchscreen was to what the touchscreen was to mobile, and what that means. So give a brief introduction to our company, talk about what it was to mobile, talk about why we think it's going to have an effect in the metaverse, go into a little bit of depth in hand tracking technology, and then also talk about mid-air haptics. And happy to answer questions as we go. So first of all, just what we aspire to be is your digital hands. We want to be the interface between you and the digital worlds, both in AR and VR or the metaverse, however you like to describe this this new future that we have. No controllers, no touchscreens, just natural interactions, right? We all know how to use our hands. It's something that we're basically born with the intuition how to do so, and we really think that being able to use our hands intuitively opens up tremendous new possibilities, both for broadening the audience of people that can participate in AR and VR, but also for the things that we can do. So again, just a company overview, we do both hand tracking and haptics. Hand tracking is, we use cameras, computer vision technology. With haptics, we're using ultrasonic transducers. And in both cases, if you combine the two, then you really are able to touch things in midair that don't actually exist, which is pretty cool. And as Andy said when I was introduced, I've spent time at Dolby doing audio, and I've heard tremendous things there. Whether or not it's virtual surround sound over headphones that make you think like you're hearing things behind you. I've been at Tobii where you can look at something and see it show up on screen using eye tracking. This is some of the most magical technology that I've played with. And again, it's pretty cool stuff, and we're exciting as it gets more out there into the world. I'm just taking a quick look at the chat. I don't know if I should save these all for the end, or should I? I'm just gonna save the questions for the end. Okay.
Feel free to address them if you'd like, sure.
Okay, let me, well, now I lost it. I don't know where that chat box went. All right. I'm gonna just save the questions for the end. Feel free to hop in unless it's like wave at me or something, because I just lost the chat box. What the touchscreen was to mobile computing. First of all, there's new interactions and things that weren't previously possible, things like pinch to zoom and things that just didn't really exist with even mice and keyboards. Pull to refresh is a good example of something that actually enabled us to be more efficient. It was a complex interaction that could be done from just one simple gesture, one simple swipe, and then swipe for love. Just as it became something of within the popular culture. Businesses grew on the backs of the touchscreen. Mobile games grew to be bigger than their console gaming or PC gaming counterparts. The chart there in the middle shows how Tencent acquired Supercell. Supercell, maker of Clash of Clans, Clash Royale, became bigger than Activision Blizzard and the biggest gaming companies in the world. Instagram, built on the back of these touchscreens. My mom now can take pictures and share them to our group chat. Really expanded the market dramatically. Everyone knows the story of a 1-year-old or 2-year-old that can grab the iPad, unlock it, navigate to their favorite YouTube channel. And again, folks like my mom able to participate. So the businesses expanded, democratized the whole thing. There we go. I have the chat back. Awesome to hear. Yeah, Leap Motion. Yeah, I'll show a quick video of that. So Leap Motion was the original cameras we built that were connected to PCs. Since then we've done a lot of our effort to try to get that into mobile spaces. But here again, this is why we think hand tracking is going to expand the market and help VR and AR achieve its promises. It's going to make it accessible to the masses. Everyone needs to be able to participate. I truly believe that VR and AR are going to change the world, and we want to make them accessible to as many people as possible. But also within VR specifically, but also in mixed reality or AR, depending on how you look at it, it's going to help achieve the promise of presence. And what I mean by that is, presence is this kind of holy grail aspect of VR. This is a quote from a German philosopher, Thomas Metzinger. Virtual reality is the representation of all possible selves, possible worlds, and making them as real as possible, hopefully creating a sense that we're somewhere else, right? That's what the true idea of presence is. And to achieve that, there's basically two illusions that must be fulfilled. The first is the place illusion. The place illusion is that you feel as if you are somewhere, right? And that's kind of what the first generation of, or I should say, they're more like the 5th generation of VR, if you go back to like the late 70s when this thing started. But the most recent iteration of VR really achieved that with 6-DoF tracking. Usually, it started with outside in, and now you have inside out tracking to do true SLAM or 6-DoF spatial mapping. And so you turn your head and the environment responds, and you start to feel as if you're there and you're in this other place. But if you stick your hand out and you don't see it, then it breaks the illusion completely, and your brain immediately snaps out of it. It creates maybe cognitive dissonance even, because you're expecting one thing and something else is happening. The other aspect of this is the plausibility illusion. So if you're in this place, it's totally real, you're looking around, people are walking by, and you go wave at someone and they don't acknowledge you or they don't look at you, and whether it's an NPC or another multiplayer person, because they can't see that, it breaks the plausibility. If you were walking down the street and you wake on someone's face and you waved at them, you'd expect them to have some kind of reaction. Ultraleap doing more in the direction of VR than AR. I wouldn't say that necessarily. Again, I can see the other questions, so I'll try to answer it real quick. I'd say this: the VR environment right now, from let's just say compute and power efficiency standpoint, lends itself a lot easier to our hand tracking technology. AR is currently very confined to, at least consumer AR is very confined to ultra small form factors, and very low power is acceptable in AR. And so our technology doesn't exactly fit in consumer mobile wearable AR. We are also the company that put Project North Star out there. So some of you in the AR community probably know about Project North Star. Tremendous, like almost 180-degree field of view headset running at 120 frames a second. That all comes from Leap Motion. We still support that. We're rolling out our latest Gemini software for them next quarter. So we fully buy into AR. It's just that on the consumer space, a lot more action and activity is on the VR side of things, given like the recent trends. And Oculus now, or Meta Quest, is up to 10 million units, or whatever's been publicized by Qualcomm and them. ByteDance is acquired by, or ByteDance acquired Pico. They sold 500,000 units last year. So there's a lot more units out there on the VR side, and there's a little bit more tolerance for our cameras, our IR emitters, and some of that kind of stuff. So we are doing stuff in both spaces. So anyways, these are the two illusions that help you achieve presence. Again, hand tracking can help with both sides of things, both to make sure that you see what you would expect to see as if you were there, but also so the environment around you can respond to you, so you can gesture, interact with things, and the world can, and again, if you're seeing someone else, and you can see them wave instead of these, floating hands and things like that, they kind of break from the illusion. I'm going to do a quick video here. Hopefully this plays well. This is a YouTube video. I don't know if I shared audio. It's just playing music, but this is a video from AWE. This will show just some of the basic benefits of hand tracking, what it can do. This is using our newer controller mounted to the front of a Pico Neo 3. You can see that in the video there. All mobile, all the processing is done on the Snapdragon XR2 chipset. And you'll see that favorite blocks demo that's coming up here shortly, right here. All right. So what's really exciting again about that blocks demo was originally done on PC using high-end performance CPUs and GPUs, and now all that stuff's running on mobile VR headsets, which is great. And so we've partnered with Qualcomm to get all of our stuff running on their DSP. Again, so it's very power efficient, so that we can, we take our computer vision models, our neural networks, train them. This is how the hand tracking works. I'm going to start at the bottom of the hand tracking stack, as we call it. It really comes down to the cameras that we designed for hand tracking. So first of all, you want a wide field of view. You want to be able to track your hands. It's really annoying. And even these are limitations that we still exist today, is that, if I take my hand, I pull it all the way back, we can't see it. We can't track it. That's a problem. We build tools in both Unity and Unreal to overcome some of that, where you take your hand out at the same pose that you bring it back in. We know to keep that item in your hand. If you take it out, you drop it, you bring your hand in, you're gonna see yourself drop it, but we can't track it, know when you dropped it. So there's still limitations just in the basic stuff. We are hoping to add more controller, or more cameras, and wider field of view. So that's some of the stuff that we have on our roadmap. But we also use infrared. A lot of people ask us why. It's really to get the best image. Computer vision, the foundation of all computer vision, is based on the images you get to process. And using infrared emitters, we use flash. We don't use structured light. So some people are used to using structured light. We're putting patterns, dots. We don't do that. We just use a floodlight. It's very low power, so it only goes out about the length of your hands, because we're just tracking your hands. And what we do is we use IR filters on the lenses so that we get just a good clean image of the hands. That allows us to do really good hand tracking in situations where you'd have, let's say, lighting like I have behind me, which is like bright lights from outdoor windows. It allows you to track in the dark. So those of you that have a Quest 2 maybe and have tried to use it in the dark, your hands won't track and things like that. So that's the cameras. We're on our 5th generation of our hand tracking model. We get accuracy down to 5 millimeters or less. Our jitter, so if you have like a fixed camera and a fixed hand in front of you, that's 0.2 millimeters on average. So we got pretty good hand tracking at this point. We'll do a taste test against anyone else's hand tracking, but a lot of it just comes from we've been around for a long time. It's our 5th generation. And then at the top, lots of folks developing using Leap motion controllers. Again, as we saw today, I only joined in 2020, and I can't tell you everywhere I go, everyone tells me about their Leaps that they have at home or on the desk, and it's a beloved product, and part of the maker community or hacker community. It's definitely there. So we have feedback from over 350,000 developers, right, that we've fed back in to do our sample scenes, our tooling and stuff that really gets you started. Quick question from Justin: is there someone that works with academic clients? Oh, sorry, that was a direct message. I'm good. I'll pick up on that. But yeah, we don't have anyone specifically on that front, but I'll follow up Justin and we can figure it out. Yeah, we do work with various academic institutions and stuff, but one of our challenges is we're still a startup and not we're not one of those unicorn ones yet. So we have to be somewhat mindful. But yeah, I recently met with some folks here at the Stanford lab that they have as well. So happy to work with you guys and seed some stuff. So again, reiterating here, just hand tracking moves, barriers to entry, VR controllers or AR controllers, whether, some people, actually saw a really great one from Oppo at Mobile World Congress, where you're using your phone as kind of a laser pointer to do things and you use the touch screen to do stuff. It's cool. It's interesting. But again, like people just want to use their hands. Not only will it help more people, but we can do things that like previously you couldn't do, right? Where you can put on the headset and immediately go in and start typing to do your Wi-Fi password. That's a very simple thing. Again, pinch to zoom like gestures in 3D where you can create 3D shapes and stuff, but you can draw in 3D. Just a lot of really interesting things that you can do with your hand. Obviously, the controllers can do some of that stuff as well. Just talking again, we do stuff with a variety of companies. One of the things that's having their moment right now is training in VR and AR as well. But VR is where it's like, companies are trying to train people. Within the pandemic, people are working remote. How do you get people to train without traveling and all this kind of stuff? So Lufthansa actually has done pre and post flight safety check training with over 20,000 flight attendants. Oh, wow, right, 15 minutes, already cruising. I'll pick up the pace. They've done this for over 20,000 flight attendants. It's just a way to do better training. There's interesting things you can do when you use hand tracking and training to just simply say like build muscle memory. So it's called procedural training, where you see something or do something. So if you're walking down the aisle and you see like a seat that's out of place, you're supposed to pick it, lift it up, take a look underneath it to make sure there's not like something that's dangerous, put that seat back down and move on. But also we work with companies in the medical space. Not only are we in like the surgery room where we have people doing surgery using AR glasses that can, navigate x-rays and pinch to zoom and stuff like that to navigate x-rays and see them in the middle of surgery. But we actually do training as well in the medical space. This is a CPR training company where you can tell someone immediately when they put their hands on the dummy or the mannequin, if they're in the wrong place, you can show them exactly how they're supposed to do it, the position you're supposed to do it. And if you can correct someone making a mistake in real time, you're not waiting till the end to go back and review that, retention on that goes up. People learn faster, learn better. So that's something that's another place that we're doing work. This here, this is a video. We have a partner named Lynx. Some of you may have heard of Lynx. Lynx is building a mixed reality headset. So it has a lot of the functionality of AR stuff, but using like a small little focus AR glass. So this is a video shot from within the Lynx headset. So they're using RGB cameras to get the scene around you. And again, the apps and stuff are very much AR. So yeah, so Lynx, that's also built on the Snapdragon XR2 platform. Really cool headset. They're going to be shipping their first units here, and I think the end of April, start of May. And you know, it's pretty compelling at a $500, $600 price point compared to essentially what the HoloLens is offering at a multiple $1,000 price point. So just a product that we're really excited about. Really cool company out of France, guy named Stan Larocque. That's again, pretty smart kid. He's mid-20s and he's been building this headset for several years. Awesome that they came. All right, so that's hand tracking. Hopefully you see the benefits of VR, and again, showing some of the stuff that represents what AR is. Again, we're still looking at AR to do great stuff. It's just that AR has moved into this mobile space where we're really power constrained. AR on the PC, as far as the infinite desktop and all the stuff Project North Star is pursuing, we're still going after that, and we love that stuff as well. Thought I'd take a quick moment, 2 slides, just to talk about our mid-air haptic technology. We use an array of, again, ultrasonic transducers. We track where your hands are. We collide these ultrasonic waves to create tactile sensations in midair. This is used primarily, it's moving into the automotive space where you have like a fixed position for someone and you have an ability to put like a set of transducers like in the center console area. We got it down to about the size of a cup holder. You can feel, you can put your hand over, you can navigate things and feel and push buttons and stuff like that. But we also see this in VR arcades. Again, due to size and cost, it's a little bit more limited in where it can go. But we're really excited to see, as we've been able to downsize this and the cost goes down, to where this could go. And eventually, hopefully, there's things that could be wearable that would allow you to do things like AR as you're walking through the world and have buttons that you could touch and then feel. And again, just on the automotive side, this is any comment comparison to the Emerge Wave 1. I know that there's a Kickstarter out there from Emerge. I'm not going to comment on it here. I know that they're doing some interesting things, doing something similar in the space. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. I don't know much more about it, unfortunately, or nor would I comment on it here. But yeah, aware that it's out there. So in the automotive space, mid-air haptic technology is being used in certain places. Again, we're pursuing the automotive space because it works well. And again, combined with heads-up displays on screens and things like that, into the AR world, we're starting to see more of that stuff show up. You'll be able to now see something on screen and be able to stick your hand out and navigate it without having to look for a physical button, without having to look and distract yourself by looking at a touch screen and not knowing if you hit it. And so that's really the excitement around mid-air haptics. So apologies if I went over a little bit on my timing, but that's Ultraleap technology for both hand tracking and haptics. And I think I nailed most of the questions, but let me know if you guys have any more.
Thank you, Matt. Great having you. Quick question. What's the benefit of using sensors like in the Leap Motion versus like a machine learning image recognition software that could be powered through your phone or webcam on your computer?
So we do machine learning and we run that, but we just feed our model with stereo images. And so the difference between, like, let's say something like Google's Media Pipe that you can run on your webcam, that uses a monocular camera, you're not going to get depth, at least not now. Again, within the world of machine learning, you might eventually, you can use things like shadows and stuff to try to get better performance from a depth perspective. But when we use stereo cameras, we're able to get really good depth, so we can actually track in 3D space, again, down to 5 millimeters or so. And I think that's like a lot of the feedback we're seeing from people in the space is that's the benefit of our architecture.
Awesome. Thank you. Great presentation. Awesome having you here, as always.
Awesome. Thank you.
Matt, I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. I just wanted to second everything you said earlier about the difference between like presence and plausibility. Like, in our work, we've all of our research has been done with a Leap Motion mounted to the front of an HTC Vive. And we would see students that have no interest in mathematics, right? But we're putting them in these little mathematical environments. They would spend as long as we would let them just looking at their hands, wanting to touch things, wanting to move things around. And so it really is incredible when you can bring together the control over your hands with the visual immersion, and it makes it just very effective and very powerful. So I just wanted to second everything you're saying. Not that this is a sales call or anything, but like, you know, we're true believers in what you all are doing. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, appreciate that. I know that I'm mostly excited that we're all going to be going into mobile VR headsets now. It's going to make it a lot less complex for everyone to be able to participate and use all these great technologies. Because again, I've been a big believer in VR. Again, in this iteration since the first Rift Dev Kit came out, right? So I'm just really excited about all that stuff. So thank you, and thanks everyone for having me, and appreciate it.
Thank you, Matt. Good seeing you. Enjoy the conference. Next up, we have Fraser Bowie here with us. He's been at the forefront of technology throughout his career, pushing the boundaries of solving business challenges in creative ways. His passion for the next big thing has kept him moving businesses forward year after year. He's the chief product officer at New Eyes, and he's leading the hardware and software efforts to bring lightweight, comfortable, all-day wear smart glasses to market. With the Pro Series of smart glasses, New Eyes is delivering low vision medical enterprise and consumer solutions with both hardware and software. And using his unique perspective as an implementer of these technologies in the enterprise at scale, he's able to provide the insight needed to succeed and avoid costly mistakes. Prior to joining New Eyes, he spent 11 years at Verizon, leading the innovation technology, deployed AR/VR solutions, and his experience throughout his career is helping New Eyes continue to lead the way with assisted technology using AR and VR. So thank you, Fraser, for being here.
Thank you. Let's see. Everyone can see my screen.
Looks great, yeah.
All right, so thank you. I'm glad to be here. You know, we are New Eyes. We, whoops, there we go. So we started in low vision. So we supply hardware, AR hardware, and we started in low vision, and we do some medical stuff, but we've moved into enterprise as well as consumer. And we really are focused on providing solutions, not just the hardware. So we do a lot of software as well, whether it's with third-party folks or with our own software that we create. We have two pairs of glasses today. We have the Pro 3E and then the Pro 3. Our focus has really been on that all-day wear. You know, starting in low vision, obviously this is how people are seeing, so they want to wear it 8 hours a day or more. So we've really been focused on how do we get them small and lightweight. So you'll see here on the left, the Pro 3E, it's 68 grams, some of the latest smart glasses on the market. Way we get there is we get there by offloading a lot of the compute, or all of the compute, actually to the phone. So these are both USB-C connected devices. So it gives us the ability to move the compute to the phone and then reduce that weight and the need for a battery as well. So that's how we get to our kind of all-day wear solutions. The Pro 3 adds a camera, so it increases the field of view from 46 to 52 degrees, and then it adds a camera as well as 4K displays. So again, still moving the compute off to the phone or to the PC or Mac, but giving that lightweight all-day wear glasses. You know, given our decision to be a USB-C, we've been able to have some strategic advantages over our competitors. So, you know, the comfort of the all-day wear is certainly it's light and comfortable, and in fact looks like a pair of sunglasses with the Pro 3E. It also gives us the advantage of being 5G ready, if you like, or compatible. So, one of the things when I deployed this at Verizon, one of the frustrating things was you would always either forget to when you're out in the field, you would either forget your MiFi hotspot, or it wouldn't be powered, or that sort of thing. So the ability of connecting to something that's already got a connection is fantastic. The USB-C also allows us to work with many devices, not just phones and tablets, but also PCs and Macs, and even some limited functionality on the iPads as well. And then security. So this is really big in the medical field as well as the enterprise field and government is, when you get to IT security, they look at perhaps some other all encompassing sort of AR devices, and they question it and they don't know what they should do. But with this, it's an accessory. So it's however the device it's plugged into is secured, means that this is secured. So you have no radios in the headsets or anything like that either. So really helps, certainly from a security perspective as well. And, so we start looking at what is the metaverse and that sort of thing. And we truly believe it's the world around us. And we've been in that metaverse from a low vision perspective for the last 7 or 8 years. We started using the old ODG headsets and now our own, but we were enhancing the world around those with low vision. And so as we move into enterprise and consumer, we look at it the same way. We are enhancing the world around us to enhance the human experience. That's our goal, is make that human experience better. So we learned a lot in low vision, and that's how we're processing through the enterprise and consumer space as well. This is some, how we're enhancing lives today. So you'll see here, these are three folks today that are using our devices. Dylan here on the left, he really is a middle school student, and really until he got our device had not really been able to participate in class as much as he would like, because he couldn't see the whiteboard. He would have to get a lot of extra help, have an assistant with him most of the time. Ricardo, again, using our device to start working with stuff at work, so that he's able to see better and do things. So we have a couple of instances where we're actually, there's a manufacturer out in Arizona that all they do is hire folks with low vision, and they use our devices to help those continue and be able to work at different types of jobs. And then Michaela over here, she uses them for both work and just out and about. So we also carry a VR headset where she's able to use that for stuff as well. So again, we're really trying to enhance those lives. And then when we go to work, so looking at work and looking at what we can do with the AR headsets, this isn't necessarily for low vision, but just for anyone out there. So you see here on the left, this is everything from training to perhaps procedures that you have to follow, and being able to provide that in your field of view as you're working, or near to the left or to the right of you while you're working, so you can quickly glance without having to deal with the swivel chair or look through the manual. And then things like remote medicine and remote assistance, and the ability to have that hands-free interaction or hands-free FaceTime type call, where the person on the other end, whether that's a specialist in medicine or whether that is, a senior mechanic somewhere, is able to look at what you're doing and assist you by annotating the screen and providing you both visual and audio feedback of what you're doing. Enhancing our world. So, Niantic bought Eighth Wall. Eighth Wall does some great stuff that they're doing today in AR. Niantic obviously does a lot of great AR stuff. Everyone talks about Pokemon Go, but the ability here, this is actually the image here on the right. The person's wearing our Pro 3E, so the one without the camera. So using, again, because we connect to the phone, being able to use the position of the phone, the GPS positioning of the phone, being able to understand where the person is, we're able to now, whether it's games and advertising, tourism or sports, different events, we're able to actually give them that 3DoF, if not 6DoF experience, just walking through the street, not because we have additional sensors or anything like that, but because we're able to understand where people are and really get them, hyper focused on what's going on. And then looking at it as simply as a secondary screen. So both our glasses, are these beautiful bright screens. So while the Pro 3 has a camera and we can do that remote assist, it can also play Xbox Game Pass, right? You're connected to your phone or your PC. You can play vivid AAA games on huge screens, no matter where you are, right? And instead of settling for that little 6.5-inch screen, you can have a 150-inch screen in front of you. It seems simple, but it's something that does enhance the gameplay. The same thing goes for streaming services and other things like that. So, again, we're really focused on this idea of how can we make these glasses as versatile as possible, make them as lightweight as possible, and we're not out there trying to find or create new use cases. We're looking at the use cases and the things that are out there today, and how can we enhance it? Can we provide, for instance, the mechanic can easily pick up a phone and do a FaceTime call and talk, right? But we've all been there where whether we're building something or whether we're trying to figure something out, and we hit play on the YouTube video, and then we hit pause, and then we hit rewind and all that. So providing that camera as a head-mounted display, with the head-mounted display, you're able to do that and enhance that, right? We didn't go out to solve the gaming space or the streaming space, but the reality is it's a lot nicer to lie on the couch and watch a movie on a big screen than it is to sit up and watch a movie as you wear it in your, and then back to those that are with low vision or even we're looking at some hearing impaired stuff, that the idea that these glasses can help someone see better, can help someone read lips of somebody, get the live transcribed conversation with somebody that might be wearing a mask. All those things, that's what we're here for. We're really here to not necessarily change the world, but enhance our lives as we live in the world, work and play in this world of ours. And that's what we really believe. And our glasses, we believe we can deliver that today, not look to the future of what could be, but today we're able to provide so much with combining our glasses with the power of mobile phones and computers.
Thank you, Fraser. Great
Yep.
to have you. 2 questions from the audience. Patrick wants to know, are there any techniques your team has had to use for helping low vision that differs to typical AR headset functionality?
So, I mean, in our simplest space, we use the camera to enhance the scene around and provide better viewing. So zooming in, zooming out, being able to read text out loud audio wise. But there's other things that we're working on in which target direct diseases, and how we use AR to really enhance the vision of those with specific things. So you might have, let's say, macular degeneration and put on a pair of glasses and it'll act a certain way, or you might have a different disease and put on a pair of glasses and it will, the same pair of glasses, but because you have a different disease, we'll get it to act a different way. So that's one of the things we're looking at and working on now.
Awesome. Thank you. Another question from Ed. Can you say a few words about the display and optics technology you're using and where you see the industry going there?
Yeah, so we're using birdbath. So birdbath, for those of you who don't know, is basically an LCD that's reflected twice. We use it, quite honestly, because it's the brightest and cheapest. You know, I'm a big believer that you know, past you know, and with our camera and our low vision stuff, we use a lot of that as pass through, right? So pass through gives you a little more ability to do things. You know, waveguides are great. They're expensive. They're hard to really configure. You know, there's some interesting things happening with like C-Real and some others that are starting to look at displays and how they can provide light field displays, which that basically uses multiple points of light, much like your own eyes interpret light, and then delivers something where you can see depth and different focal lengths and things like that. So that to me is really interesting, and the person that solves that to make it even more natural, I think, will be the person that wins. You know, you know, we've had a we've had a great chance at building these glasses that we've kept the heat down, we've kept the weight down and all that, and the cost down, because we're using something like birdbath. But you know, when you get to something that's reflective, like let's say what Meta was at one point, and a couple of others like that, you end up with a big screen in front of you. Yes, you get a wider field of view, but now you look a little more awkward. And you know, we're trying to, as they say, the 100 feet mark, you know, from 100 feet you shouldn't know what I'm wearing, which is kind of what you're doing with these. I mean, you don't know that I'm wearing, besides the cord, you don't know I'm wearing anything else. So, you know, another reason we picked birdbath is we can make it small and fit and work well.
Awesome. Thank you, Fraser. Glad to have you. Now I'll open it up for any questions, or if anyone would like to share any projects that they're working on, feel free to raise your hand in the participants panel. If you have any questions, feel free to post it in the chat, and I will ask it to the group. So feel free to respond there as well. If not, we will start closing up. But really appreciate you all joining New York Augmented Reality tonight. It was great having you all here. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Thank you, Niraj. Thanks for coming and sharing. Hey, Rick, the best place to follow us is on our Meetup page probably, but you could also join our Slack if you want to direct message other folks on the group. Thank you, Patrick, for joining. I'll post the Slack link. Sorry, I didn't put it in yet. Thank you, Merrick. The video will be available on YouTube. The channel is New York. I'll send a link to the channel as well. Thanks. Awesome. Let's see. Yeah, I think if you just Google New York Augmented Reality on YouTube, you'll find it. Awesome. Thank you, everyone, for joining tonight. It was amazing having you. Here's the link to the channel. And we'll see you next time. Thanks, Fraser. Good to see you. Thank you.